There is a force more potent than talent, more enduring than ambition, and more transformative than inspiration. That force is discipline. It is not the whip of punishment nor the rigid code of perfectionism. True discipline is the sacred agreement between your higher self and the chaos within. In the silent chambers of your soul, discipline becomes your compass, not to control life, but to harmonize with its deeper purpose. Let me offer you 5 keystones to this inner architecture. Deep within each of us lies a figure we rarely acknowledge, a presence as old as our first breath. It is not the devil of dogma, nor the villain of tales, but something far more intimate. It is the part of ourselves that we refuse to see, the impulses we repress, the envy we deny, the rage we excuse, the fears we bury under smiles. This is the shadow, the dark twin of the persona we show the world. But make no mistake, the shadow is not evil in itself. It is simply raw, undirected, and primal. It is your potential in its most chaotic form. Left untamed, the shadow sabotages. It leaks into your relationships, poisons your ambitions, and deceives your sense of identity. It whispers behind your thoughts and acts out through your weaknesses. And unless you bring it into consciousness, it will rule your life while convincing you that you are free. Discipline is the sacred ritual by which the shadow is brought into order, not punished, not exiled, but integrated. It is through structure that the chaos within begins to take form, when you rise early and commit to difficult tasks, not once, but again and again. You are not merely following a routine. You are engaging in a private conversation with the parts of you that resist growth. Every time you resist the urge to escape discomfort, every time you do what is right instead of what is easy, you are drawing boundaries around the wild forces within. You are telling your inner darkness, I see you, but you serve me now. This process is not quick. It is not glamorous, but it is transformative. For in facing the shadow, in choosing responsibility over indulgence, you become dangerous in the right way. The disciplined man is not harmless. He is formidable because he has seen what he is capable of, both good and ill, and has chosen to put that power under conscious control. He becomes someone who walks with strength, not because he is pure, but because he has wrestled with his own nature and prevailed. And so, to discipline the self is to make peace with the hidden realms of the psyche. It is not a matter of dominance but of union. The shadow remains a part of you, but it no longer drives the chariot, you do, and when that happens you do not become less human, you become whole. Time is not merely the ticking of clocks or the turning of calendar pages. It is a living current that moves through the soul, a sacred measure of what we value, what we fear, and what we become. How a person uses time is not just a reflection of their habits, but a revelation of their inner architecture. You cannot lie to time. It records everything with perfect memory. When one treats time casually, it is not time that is diminished, it is the self. The man who wastes his days is not simply idle, he is fragmented. He is at war with his own potential. His hours are scattered across distraction, lost in the fog of aimlessness, because he has not yet rooted his life in meaning. There is no external force that will make his time sacred. That must be an inner decision, born of discipline. To honor time is to ask with each moment, what am I building? Who am I becoming? Why am I here? These are not questions for the mind alone, but for the soul. Discipline is what allows us to answer them, not once, but continually. It takes discipline to turn away from the noise, from the screens, from the shallow gratification of novelty, and instead turn inward, to work, to reflect, to build. It takes discipline to sit in the silence long enough to hear the deeper call. Every action you take is a vote toward a future self, and the currency of that transformation is time. There are no shortcuts. No matter how gifted, no matter how inspired, every soul must pay the price in hours, in attention, in repetition. The sculptor of character does not work in marble, but in minutes. Every day becomes either a brick in the foundation or a crack in the wall. The disciplined one understands this and lives accordingly. Those who drift through time as though it were endless will find, too late, that it was the most finite gift of all. But those who discipline themselves to master its rhythm, who wake with intention, who dedicate hours to something greater than pleasure, These are the ones who transmute time into meaning. They turn the fleeting into the eternal. Their days may look ordinary from the outside, but inside they are consecrated acts of becoming. In this way, time becomes a mirror. It reflects not what we claim to believe, but what we actually serve. Do you serve the higher aim, or do you serve the craving of the moment? Discipline is the only thing that clarifies this mirror. Without it, our image is distorted by impulse, our path blurred by confusion. But with discipline, time reflects back to us something noble, a self that is coherent, directed, and alive with purpose. Greatness is not the child of sudden inspiration. It does not arrive on wings of emotion or in flashes of brilliance. It emerges slowly through the ancient and often agonizing process of repetition. Over and over, the same motions, the same rituals, the same struggles, until the soul begins to take shape in ways it never could through mere desire. Repetition is not a prison. It is the alchemical furnace where the raw elements of your being are fused into gold. The modern mind recoils at repetition. It seeks novelty, stimulation, and ease. It fears boredom as if it were death. But boredom is not death. It is the threshold of transformation. Those who flee from repetition never stay with themselves long enough to meet the deeper layers of their nature. They hover on the surface of life, never diving into the dark water where real change occurs. To repeat a thing with intention is to engage in a sacred practice. It is not just the outer act that changes, it is the inner self that is being reshaped. Each time you return to your work, when no one watches, when no one applauds, you are refining the invisible forces within you. Your discipline becomes an incantation, your labor a kind of spiritual metallurgy. The dull tool becomes sharp, the scattered mind becomes focused, the ordinary task becomes a ritual, and the performer of the task becomes a vessel of meaning. This is not the repetition of the machine, it is the repetition of the monk, of the craftsman, of the warrior. It is conscious, chosen, endured. Through it, your character is sculpted with the chisel of consistency. You begin to embody virtues you once only admired: patience, fortitude, humility. And though no one may see it at first, a silent revolution is taking place. The self you were begins to die, and something greater is being born in its place. True repetition also reveals the hidden, your strengths, your weaknesses, your resistances, your fears. It exposes what you wish to hide, not to shame you, but to offer you a choice. Will you keep circling at the surface, or will you endure the fire long enough to be transformed by it? This is why so few become great, not because they lack talent, but because they flee the grind. They reject the sacred monotony required to turn potential into power. But the disciplined one does not flee. He returns, again and again, to the task. He sees the beauty in the repetition, the meaning behind the motion. To him, the practice is the path. He understands that greatness is not some distant summit to be reached in one heroic climb, but a mountain slowly built beneath his feet, stone by stone, day by day, repetition after repetition. And so he walks the circle that becomes a spiral. Each turn is deeper, more refined, more awakened. What once felt tedious now feels holy. What once was routine now becomes revelation, and when the world finally sees what he has become, they call it genius or luck or destiny. But he knows better. He knows it was repetition all along, the slow, silent, faithful rhythm of a soul disciplined enough to become what it was always meant to be. We live in a world that worships freedom but misunderstands it entirely. It is confused with indulgence, mistaken for the absence of limits, idolized as the right to do whatever one pleases. But true freedom is not found in the gratification of every desire. That is not liberty, it is enslavement in disguise. The one who follows every impulse is not free, he is bound by the very forces he refuses to discipline. Real freedom begins where compulsion ends, and compulsion does not vanish on its own. It must be confronted, restrained, and ultimately transformed. This is why discipline is not a cage, but a gate, a narrow, difficult gate that opens onto a vast inner world. Restraint is the threshold. Only those willing to endure its demands may pass through and discover the deeper freedom that lies beyond. To restrain yourself is to recognize that not every urge deserves your obedience. It is to understand that there is a part of you that would rather stay comfortable, distracted, and numb, and that part will speak with many voices: laziness disguised as peace, addiction disguised as pleasure, fear disguised as prudence. Without restraint, these voices rule you. They make you reactive, fragile, and directionless. But when you begin to say no, not just once, but again and again, you begin to remember your power. This is the paradox. The more you restrain your lower impulses, the more space you create for your higher self to emerge. It is not the suppression of life, but the channeling of it. The river that overflows its banks destroys. The river that is guided by strong edges nourishes entire civilizations. So it is with your life. Restraint gives it structure, and structure gives it strength. Freedom without form is chaos. But when restraint becomes conscious, it opens the door to mastery. The man who trains his body, who commands his attention, who governs his speech and his habits, he is not less free. He is more. He can walk into temptation and choose to walk out. He can suffer discomfort without fleeing it. He can hear his emotions without being ruled by them. He can choose his path, not because it is easy, but because it is right. This kind of freedom is not granted. It is earned, and it is not loud. It will not dazzle others or gain applause, but it is unshakable. It lives deep within the disciplined soul like a steady flame. Others may sway with the winds of emotion, trend, and pressure, but the disciplined one stands firm. His life may seem less adorned on the surface, but beneath it lies a quiet power, born not of excess, but of restraint. And in the end, it is only this freedom that endures. The freedom of one who has met himself in the crucible of discipline, who has faced the inner chaos and imposed upon it an order rooted in purpose. The freedom of one who has stepped through the gate of restraint, not as a prisoner, but as a sovereign. In the end, discipline is not a cage, it is a crucible. It burns away the false and reveals the eternal. When you choose discipline, you are choosing alignment over chaos, meaning over comfort, transformation over indulgence. So I ask you now, will you let the unconscious rule you, or will you rise each day to shape the self that waits in potential? Discipline is not everything because it controls life. Discipline is everything because it reveals who you truly are beneath it all.